Hi, everybody. This, of course, is kind of a new version of Leaf Talk. Um, Technology is so wonderful. We're working with Streampunk today, a new network. And of course, we'll still be going to YouTube. We'll still be going to Facebook and all those wonderful places. If you're watching, you know that already. So, as usual, Aaron William Freeland is here, ready to talk about the Maple Leafs. And I got to tell you, Aaron, this has been an adventure. First of all, what I have to do is beg my beg my friend here, Aaron, to understand that I've been busy trying to figure something out. And to put it bluntly, this has been an interesting challenge. It's something I've really enjoyed doing, he said sarcastically. Um, you know, the Leafs, like this show today, I think there's a parallel, right? Um, the Leafs have been very hot or very cold. I think, Aaron, it's fair to say that the last time we watched them play, well, let's just say the local kid Fantilli had a great outing. Unfortunately, he wasn't wearing a maple leaf, but he was born in Toronto, and he had a great game. The Leafs didn't, on the other hand. They had the margin, that same problem we've seen them have over the years in the playoffs and everywhere else, where they have the margin of play to their advantage, but can't seem to find the net.
It's funny how it seems to work like that, though I do have to say I thought it was amusing. In the past 10 games, the Maple Leafs have been 6-4-0. But if you go back a little further than that, they were actually 8-3, I think, coming into this most recent game. They're now 8-4 over their past 12, which to me is, that's roughly where you need to be if you're planning on advancing or at least maintaining your position. Um, as William Nylander said after they lost three in a row, it's only 3 games. What's the big deal? Then they turned around and they won 3 games, and as Willie said, it's only 3 games. What's the big deal? So I I
Well,
appreciate where he's coming from on this
I,
in the
I,
grand scheme of things.
I actually totally agree with what he said.
Mhm.
But where my agreement with what he said, when you nuance the statement, you're playing more than 3 games, and you've got more than 3 games in front of you, and the games that you have in front of you um, are basically so important because there are no less than 5 teams in the Atlantic Division who could finish as high as third place in the division. No problem.
Yeah, technically speaking, I think the Leafs are one of those that could technically finish it no higher than third. It
Well,
all
no,
depends on
they
how the
could end
second
up
half of the
there.
season goes.
Yes, they could end up there. But I think at this time, at this very moment, Florida and Toronto are in the position of being first and second, and they have to literally, the wheels have to come off a little bit for them to end up in third. My point is that the rest of the teams, the other 3 teams, you might be able to say 4 even, right? Because except for Boston, even Detroit is within striking distance. Every team in the Atlantic Division could finish in third, no less a wild card position from where they sit today by playing just a wee bit better than they've been playing. In other words, if they can, what I like to call above the Gary Bettman 500 thing, they've got to basically, they got to be +1 over the long haul, +2, +3, +4. They can't just lose and get a point, is all I'm trying to say. They have to win. And not only do they have to win outright against these teams that are right behind them. Because if you win, and the same as in reverse is true for the Leafs, if they're playing teams that are trying to catch them and they get a tie, it's not as bad as losing outright. So winning outright is a real game changer. Winning in overtime or in a shootout just gives you a little bit more of advancement towards the playoffs. And the Leafs right now are in a fairly good position, which could evaporate quickly in a matter of a week or two, especially if those other 6 teams keep having plus records. In other words, if they're 6-4, 7-3, 8-2, we've seen from all those teams below them, we've seen them be able to do that. Montreal went on a good tear. Detroit's in the middle of a good tear, and they had a little break actually. And of course the Bruins can do it, as we know. They've done it historically. And so, Aaron, winning outright and getting points is very important for Toronto if they want home ice advantage, because third place doesn't get you home ice advantage.
And this is the curious thing. If you're to listen to the team's captain, home ice might not necessarily be an advantage. I don't know if you caught Matthews' comments after the Reeves fight, but he did mention that the Scotiabank Arena seemed a little bit quiet. They didn't apparently get the pop that they thought that they should have after having Revo drop the gloves less than 90 seconds into a game. So that's that's another thing for the players to consider at this point, is if they feel that the fans are not going to be there for them, what is the solution?
Well, I don't think the fans are. I don't think the fans can be dragged into this. I think I'll look at his statement as suggesting that just because you have home ice doesn't mean win a series. That's what I took from what he said. Right?
No,
It
and
doesn't
that's fair.
guarantee you win. It doesn't guarantee you win. That's just my interpretation of what he said. And yeah, it's it could be taken both ways. It could be him saying, we need a little more support from our Leaf fans. And it could be just a simple statement that, home ice advantage, especially when you don't have it, right? Because they don't have it. I don't mean they're not in a position to get it, but they literally don't have it yet. They don't have home ice advantage. So there's no need to create this thing where, well, if we don't get home ice advantage, if they, I think he's taking the opposite tack that sometimes people take. Teams take, players take. We need home ice advantage. He's saying, no, you don't. And he's right. Whether he was saying about the fans or that, in my opinion, that's correct. Because until you have home ice advantage, you shouldn't talk about it, in my opinion. It's like, don't talk about the shutout before the game's over.
That's it right there. I mean, when a hometown boy scores 3, Merzlikins stops 28 shots, and Luca Del Bellos has a goal, and James Van Riemdijk also has a goal, that's something that could potentially be a concern for the Leafs. The Jackets are now 7-1-1 in their last 9 games, and are actually now, technically speaking, in the first wildcard spot in the East, which is an interesting situation. If the season were to start today, I think this would probably be the first round matchup.
Yeah, and I don't like it.
No,
if I was to say I was a Leaf fan, I don't like it. I don't like the Leafs in the playoffs against teams that are small market teams.
And I remember what they did to us during the COVID season too. So I'm not exactly a fan of how all of that panned out at the end of the day.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's the same situation that Ottawa would present the same kind of challenge. For these teams, the extra here, the whipped cream on, and this may sound Toronto centric, but I'll live with it. Not only is it winning a series, but beating Toronto. That's a little extra motivation, because they are the team that the most people care about. And when I say that, I know it sounds Toronto centric, but I'm going to say that in watching the National Hockey League, watching the Toronto Maple Leafs on the road, I defy anybody to show me where there's as much support for any visiting team not named the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And they are, here's the thing, Toronto is the team that everybody has always wanted to beat, just because it's the most fun to mock their fans.
And you had that extra thing this time with Fantilli being a local kid.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of those rare NHL games where he's actually paying to play as opposed to being paid to play.
Yeah, the joke was he was playing for free.
Yep.
which is probably true. There's probably some truth in that. Yeah. So that game, that game showed us two things. I think, Aaron. I think it showed us that the Maple Leafs goaltending is still questionable as it sits and as it sat in that last game. Hildeby did not look very good in net. He seemed out of place. He overplayed the puck. He was everything goaltending in Toronto hasn't been this year, which is erratic in the net, sliding across the ice without with almost reckless abandon. What do you think?
He did. It's a change from what I've seen from him in the past, especially playing with the Marlies. It was just bizarre to see him overextending like that. I'm not sure if it was a case of the yips because he hasn't exactly had the most success with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, you look at his statistics so far this season, and it's a little off-putting. This guy was anointed at one point as the next big thing, being 6'7" and 224. But he's rocking an 878 save percentage with a 3.33 goals against average, and he's only 3-3. So that is a bit of a concern when it comes to this sort of thing.
On his behalf, we can quote William Nylander. It's only a game.
This is very true. I mean, while it is only a game, the problem is, I think the problem that we're running into here is Woll wasn't particularly good against Columbus either. So it's a question of who do you put in? I guess he's just as much of a good choice as anybody else. I mean, I know that the Leafs are going to be sending him down if they haven't already, and they're going to be bringing up Matt Murray, who has been a rather pleasant surprise. We can get to him a little bit later if you'd like, but
yeah. I can say this partly with tongue in cheek. I can just hear the phone call from the coach. Yeah, is this athletic therapy? Yeah. How's Stolarz doing? I can hear that phone call. I can hear that phone call in my head.
Hey, the other question is, hey, Athletics, how long can we keep him out for? Worst case, how long can we keep him out for?
Oh my goodness, it is a tough situation that the Leaf goaltending's in, because the fishbowl has witnessed it all, and the fishbowl has spoken, and the team is still in first place in the Atlantic Division and fighting for first place overall against, right behind a Washington team and a Carolina team, a Washington team that's playing like nobody thought they could play. Remember, this is the team that didn't make that made the playoffs last year on the last night of the season.
And here's the thing: I don't think things are getting better for the Leafs on the back end either. You're looking at Stolarz is still out. Yarncroke is skating again, but he's not doing a lot. Janne Hakanpää, it's still magic beans with him.
He's going to play for Finland. He's going to play for Finland. Oh, he said it today. He's playing for Finland.
Tavares is out. He's on the IR. Pacioretty is day to day, and Matthew Nyes just got put out again.
There you go. Upper body injury.
Well, he tried to throw a hit at Kirill Marchenko.
I think it's below the neck, but above upper body. Not this time. It's not concussion issues, I don't think.
No, it looks like he might have tweaked something in his shoulder. When he went to hit him, he kind of ran into the linesman. Not saying it's the linesman's fault. The linesman was watching the play. The hit happened behind him. I just think Nyes got the worst of a bad collision, and it didn't quite work out.
No, not at all. No, it didn't work out for him. But Matthew Nyes is a young player that the Leafs are hoping can find and keep his game, because he plays the style the Leafs need to be played in the playoffs, and he's a great addition to the number one line they have.
Oh, for sure. No, he's one of those. He's the grit that they need on that line. He's the guy that's willing to go into the corner and crack skulls to get the puck. So,
Let's take an intermission here on Leaf Talk, talking about the NHL Canadian teams as well. But before we do that, let's talk about what's going on in Toronto sports, and we can start with the Blue Jays. They made a signing. I'm not really that impressed on that signing.
They signed outfielder Antonio Santander to a $92.5 million 5-year contract, which includes up to $61.75 million in deferred payment. He's got the right to opt out of the contract following the 2027 season to become a free agent again. But if he does opt out, Toronto can void the decision by guaranteeing to add $17.5 million, which would increase the deal to $110 million over 6 seasons.
It's tough
Um,
being a baseball player.
I here's the thing. I kind of wish that they would invest more in the team because I don't think they realize
They're
how
fifth
much
most. They're fifth most in the majors, Aaron.
it
There's
doesn't
only
seem.
4 other teams that have spent more money than the Blue Jays.
So why
4.
aren't we getting the results? This is what confuses me
Is
then.
it that's the key. It's not how much you spend, it's how you spend it. That's just the
See,
reality of it. You
so
know,
weird.
well, this management team has multiple times been in the top of Major League Baseball in spending, and it has not reflected equally on results, especially results that everybody wants. That is the playoffs, right? That people in Toronto want to see them win a series.
Is there a Toronto curse? Because like the
No,
Leafs
no,
seem to
no,
be in the same position. They're
no,
spending
no.
a
It's
whole ton of
it's
money
not
on
a
forwards.
it's not a Toronto curse. It's a curse of the people who run the team. It's all on them. And when I say run the team, I don't mean the third base coach, if you follow what I'm saying.
100%.
Upper management has they've really they've really not done the kind of work. They came from Cleveland, and this deal they made for Santander was with Cleveland. And they didn't show any appreciation for the fact that the upper management team with the Blue Jays came from there. They fleeced them. The Jays got fleeced. They made a move based on getting that great Japanese pitcher that was up for grabs, and
Mhm.
that play they made, and that the adjustments they made financially, that were made on the idea that they would get this guy. So all this stuff they did that was going to help after they got this guy, they didn't get the guy. So now they've got this contract, and they got all this deal that really hinged on them getting this great pitcher from Japan. So that didn't happen for them.
Hopes and dreams, I think, is what this organization sells people on, and unfortunately, each and every year, we get sold short on hopes, and our dreams get dashed.
Well, you know what? Baseball's a competitive sport, and it doesn't begin on the field. It
Well, this
begins it begins now, and just a month ago. Like, it begins. This is when it begins, and you got to be successful here and now at the time we're at right now, and then hope that the success that you might have predicted to have comes through in the execution of the actual plan and the players to execute that plan. The Jays have failed to negotiate a return on the investment. That's true. So it's not ownership that's not giving the Jays management team money. So, we can't this isn't the Harold Ballard years in hockey. This is Rogers is giving them money, and Rogers is spending a lot of money, in the stadium. Now, they avoid the cost of building a new stadium, and every new stadium nowadays are hundreds of $1,000,000 US. So that's like billions of dollars Canadian, right? So, they're doing their part. I don't like saying that because, Rogers is an easy pick on them company, right? They're easy to pick on. The Raps. Let's talk about them, Aaron.
So, a very rare thing occurred Thursday. They actually got their second road win of the season.
Woohoo! And they're 3 of 4, I think. Their
Yeah,
past 4.
they've been unable to put together a consistent win streak, but they've won 3 of their last 4 games. Scotty Barnes had 25 points, and they picked up a 122-119 win over the Atlanta Hawks. Um, it's been hard to cheer for them this season. I'll be honest with you. It's been really hard to cheer for them.
And in this run, they beat the last year's champions, the Celtics.
Mhm.
So, that's no mean feat.
Well, they have been playing some of their best ball so far this season. I will give them that much. But at the same time, they haven't really been giving the fans outside of what's been happening a lot to cheer about. I think they have 11 wins on the season, which is, obviously not going to cut it. They're trying very hard for that first overall draft pick. Um, I'm
Wouldn't wait.
I'm I'm not sure if the draft is deep enough for them to do that, but
Well,
it
first
is what
overall, it better be deep enough for first overall, Aaron. It better be deep enough for that, is all I can say. And of course, look, I don't want to be a Raptor apologist, but the fact is they've had a lot of injuries, and they've suffered a lot of injuries, and now the players are starting to come back. They're starting to win where they weren't winning at all, and recently they've won more than they've lost. So, is this the real Raptor team, or is the real Raptor team the team that we've seen up until this good stretch here? So we'll find out in the future. Let's talk about a team that's a defending champion, the greatest Toronto sports franchise in, I don't know what, past 50 years,
Yeah, we'll go with that.
right? I mean, what organization in Toronto that convinces people to buy tickets to the event has treated their fans with more success? Zero. Oh, am I showing favoritism to the Canadian Football League? Yeah, I guess I am.
Possibly.
I guess I am. I mean, covering the Argos is always a pleasure to well, not always, but more often than not, it's fun covering the Argos, getting to see the fans be very happy and watch what they've done over the past few years. They've won the championship twice out of the last 3 years. That's even better than the 3 wins out of 4 games by the Raptors.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, the Argonauts actually did sign American linebacker Jarrett Martin. Martin played 31 games at the University of Rhode Island between 2020 and 2023 and recorded 82 tackles, 6.5 for loss, 3 sacks, 1 INT, 1 fumble recovery, 1 forced fumble, and 10 knockdowns. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in with the rest of their line. But certainly his performance, his height, and his speed are something that the Argonauts are looking to bring in. So there's
Yeah.
that. Not to mention the fact that they've also re-signed Devontae Coxey. He chose to sign with the Argos less than 3 weeks before the opening of free agency. He said, he's pretty sure he was coming back. Toronto's where I started. I didn't plan on leaving, and I'm glad they were able to make it happen. It wasn't just the financial aspect that brought him back to the Six for the next 2 years. The money is going to be there. Coxey said that there were a lot of different things that contributed to his signing. Everything that is meant for you is going to happen with this organization. He's attached to everybody, not just the players, but also the training staff, the equipment guys, the coaches. He's built a lot of ties here over the past few years and put in a lot of work.
And the fans love him.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he's been a fan favorite for a long time now. Like a year ago, he actually led the CFL with an average of 20.2 yards per reception. While it fell to 14.6 yards per catch this past year, he still led the Argos with 25 targets on passes of 25 or more yards, and in total targeted yards with over 1,200. So he's an important part of their offense when it comes to this sort of thing, and I'm glad to see him come back because it's a good indication that we have a decent chance of repeating.
Oh, there you go. I mean, it's tough. It's win one or you're out. That's what happens in the playoffs in the Canadian Football League. So, football actually, the NFL as well. The Argos are a team that they need more support from their fans. I just don't. The schedule has. They're going head to head with the Blue Jays more, but the games are being played in the afternoon so that the younger folks, parents can bring the younger folks, the future fans of the Canadian Football League, they can bring more of them because the games are starting 3, 4 o'clock, as opposed to 7:30 on a school night.
No,
So
that is true. A lot of the weekend games are decently timed as well, so the kiddos get enough sleep. That's also a very important factor.
it might also solve the problem of traffic because going downtown for a 7 o'clock game and leaving at 10:30 after a 7 o'clock game has been a big challenge. I've witnessed it firsthand, and it's a gripe that I have. I can live with it. I'm just a reporter, but I'm just saying, when I put myself in the position of fans who are going to go to an Argo game, who wants to go to a game that takes you 2.5 hours to get to and 3 hours to leave?
Yeah,
You know,
that is
I'm
a bit of an issue.
exaggerating, but I'm making the point, which is valid.
No, it getting out of there has always been an issue,
That's why these
especially if
hours are
you're
good.
in a vehicle. But you know, the other thing that I'm looking at as well is um, you know, if you've come down by public transit, it's relatively easier to get out of there post game, but not by much.
But it is easier. You're totally right. Let's talk about the Scepters, Aaron.
So the Scepters have had a bit of a rough season. Their current record is 3-0-2-6. That's 3 wins, 2 overtime losses, and 6 regulation losses. They had another one, unfortunately, hung on them the other night by the Boston Fleet. Um, you know, Alina Muller opened the scoring for Boston 4 minutes into the first period with her first goal of the season, before Emily Brown added to Boston's lead 12 minutes later to give the Fleet a 2-goal margin heading into the first intermission. After a scoreless second period, Muller's early third period shot deflected off the ankle of Boston forward Shea Maloney and then into the back of the net to give Boston a 3-goal cushion. Blair Turnbull got one back with just over 5 minutes left in the game, but Boston sealed it with an empty netter from Megan Keller. The unfortunate thing is that Toronto hasn't gotten off on the right foot this year, but there have been some sparks of life. You know, they are unfortunately a little underwater when it comes to goals for and goals against, but there have been improvements. So we're hoping that the next little bit brings them a little bit better luck. They have a game coming up this Saturday at 2 o'clock against the New York Sirens at Scotiabank Arena. I believe there are some tickets still available. So Toronto fans, if you haven't had a chance to come out and see a game yet, please do.
Absolutely. Let's get back to the Maple Leafs. And while we talked a little bit about the fan energy, we touched on it. And I think basically, just to review it, the Maple Leafs, they need to play really well, and they need to play well a lot. And because Leaf fans, and I think justifiably, don't have the patience when they lose. It's not fair, but I can understand why they don't. It's all about being a snake bit Leaf fan. You know, the way they feel. You can speak to it better than anybody.
Unfortunately, I can. The funny thing was to find them getting booed off the ice after the second period of the game against Columbus. They had opportunities on the power play. They didn't get a shot. There was one point where the second power play took over. The second power play unit took over, and they didn't get a shot for at least 30 seconds, despite having several opportunities. And in total, that second power play unit played 38 seconds. And they got one shot in that 38 seconds, which to me is not acceptable. And the fans let him hear him in that respect. But you know, I guess obviously that wasn't the kind of response that Matthews was looking for out of the crowd.
Well, it's the kind of response he's going to get. You know, I mean, and his first, power play ensemble, they've gone through almost complete penalties, power plays, without a shot on goal. So, you know, this is the impatience of the Toronto fans. And I think it's driven by the fact that because Columbus doesn't have cachet and the Leafs are playing bad against Columbus, the two things meet, conflict, and the reaction by the fans is, why are we losing 3-0 to Columbus?
Yeah, that I think is a lot of it. It's
They're a better team
I'm
than
hard
Leaf
put to
fans
explain why.
most
You
Leaf
know,
fans understand.
I
Is my
think they do.
point. That's my point. Is that the Leaf fans? You know, if you don't see them, you won't see them booing if Montreal gets ahead 3-0. They get quiet. They'll get quiet, but they don't boo the Leafs when they're behind 3-0 against Montreal. That's because there's this built-in respect for teams like Montreal, Edmonton, Boston, Tampa, Florida, because of their success and them coming to their rink and humiliating the Leafs from time to time. They're kind of used to it. So when this team from Columbus comes that they don't hardly know anything about and does it to them, and the Leaf fans knowing that the Leafs are a top team in the National Hockey League, why are they letting this little pipsqueak team give them a hard time? And I go back to that statement. They're a small market team coming to a big market. There's extra motivation. And local kid does well. You think it's a coincidence?
Yeah, no, 100% not.
Right. So yeah, it is what it is. So when do you think Nyes will return? What does your reporting tell us?
Well, he's a tough kid. Let's be honest with you. He's built like a brick outhouse. Uh, Honestly, based on that hit and the way he hit the ground, I think he's just a little shaken up. Might have been one of those, let's just shut it down for the game. Make sure that I'm not too banged up to not come back. Um, the early word on Nyes is that they were afraid it was going to be an upper body injury, but it's going to be apparently a matter of days, not a matter of weeks, which is good. It shouldn't be too long on the sidelines for him. Um, but we'll have to see. I don't want to see him rush himself back, and I know that that's happened on
He's
occasion.
so
It's not.
important.
Yeah, no. At this point in the season, he has proven to be the most the most workable, and the most beneficial line mate for Austin Matthews. So, if he doesn't rush himself back, that's a good thing.
And you know what? It's like saying in game 60 of the season as opposed to game 2 in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I'd
Right.
I'd, I'd rather have him out for a few games here than not have him in the
That's right.
playoffs for
So you
sure.
want to make sure he's healthy. We're at the point where injuries could become an issue, but at this point, really injuries don't matter. It's results. The results are what matters. Later on, injuries are going to be really important. Let's talk about Wall and how he feels. Hiddleby can be a little better.
So Hildeby allowed 4 goals in the loss, and that's dropped his save percentage down to .878, which is borderline unusable in the NHL. 12 hours after the game was done, of course, the Maple Leafs did send him down to the Marlies. They brought Murray back up. It's been a difficult hill for him this season. He's bounced up and down between the NHL and AHL several times, and at the midway point of the year has 14 games to his name, 8 with the Marlies and 6 with the Leafs. Hildeby believes he should be ready for whatever's thrown his way because everybody in the league has done it. It's just something you've got to go through. He said that you've just got to find a way. I need to do a little bit better, which is, I think, a bit of an understatement. Now, I know Wall knows a thing or two about going up and down and the ins and outs when it comes to this sort of thing. Wall, as one of Toronto's main goalies with a .907 save percentages, says, it's not an easy league to go through. There's a lot of ups and downs. What he can say is that Hildeby is actually a special goalie. I see him in practice every day, and he doesn't let it a shot. It's pretty awesome. He has the talent. He has the mental capacity for it. Just sometimes results don't go the way you want, and I've had plenty of experience with that, and I have no doubt he's going to be great for the Leafs in the future.
The send down this time was more appropriate than it was last time. Last week, the last couple of times, they sent him down so that Murray could have a start. And then they sent Murray back down to get work. This time, it looks to me like this is a send down that he earned. His play got him sent down. And you might see Murray come up here, and if Murray plays well, you may not see Murray leave for a little bit. Now, I don't know how that impacts on the Leafs cap situation. Not being a capologist or one with a great reputation, I don't know how it impacts on that. But at the end of the day, Hildeby has been given a chance, and he's going to suffer these slings and arrows, Aaron. If he doesn't play well, then he's not going to be in the lineup. Unfortunately, until he develops a reputation for being dependable and somebody that maybe has a bad game, that he can come back with a good game. he hasn't established that part of his reputation yet, where he can look back and the team can look back and go, look, he's a better goalie than that. Wall was where he is, and now Wall is in a different place where they're going to give him a chance if he doesn't play well, because they're going to assume for the most part he's going to be a really good goaltender. And that's the reputation that Wall has created by virtue of the way he's played this year, right? He's played mostly well, a lot he's played. I don't think there's a game that he played as weak as the one that Hildeby just played. I don't think he's done that a single time. He's been on the losing end. He's been a part of losing a 1-goal game, but that's sketchy territory.
No, the thing is, he's always found a way to come back after that sort of thing. So the other thing to remember too is they're bringing up Murray, who has 4 shutouts in his season with the Marlies so far. So that's a very positive sign for him. And the save percentage that he's currently rocking is definitely indicative of the fact that I think he's got things locked in when it comes to his play in the AHL. This is another opportunity for him to demonstrate what he can do.
He's been sheltered. He's been sheltered. The Leafs know that he's coming back from a lot of time away from being healthy. And we can't count that those short moments when he was healthy. So they're dealing with a guy who's had a lot of issues over the long term. They want him to be ready, just like Nyes, just like any other important player that they have. He has to be ready for the playoffs. He has to be riding in a confident mode for when the Leafs go into this home stretch, because I think Hildeby hasn't shown us that he's the backup goaltender. It still could be Murray. And if Murray plays as well as his shutouts indicate in the American Hockey League, he could be creating a goalie controversy.
I'll be honest with you. I would love to have a goalie controversy like that. I mean, Murray is 8-4-2 with the Marlies, along with his .934 save percentage and his 1.68 goals against average. His last 3 games, he had 2 shutouts. So
there you go.
It's one of those things where, I mean, he signed for the 2024-25 campaign with Toronto at $875,000. Bringing him up isn't going to affect your cap situation all that much. He made 2 starts for the Leafs in December. He went 1-1-0 with an .879 save percentage. Ouch. And a 3.54 goals against. But the fact that he's been playing as well as he has in the A is a good indication that he might be ready to give the NHL another shot. And, with the situation being what it is, with Hildeby unfortunately looking as porous as he has been, Stolar still recovering. It's now is just about the perfect time as we head into the All-Star / Four Nations Cup break.
Well, the challenge of being in goal for the Maple Leafs right now, there are lots of challenges. Being a goaltender that doesn't have the kind of reputation we just spoke about, both of us in detail. The other thing that we need to remember as well is that the Leafs are missing a lot of key players. They're missing their number 2 center. Defensemen have been in and out of the lineup. You've got periphery players that make a contribution to the team and put pressure on the other periphery players have been injured, and players are now coming back. And it could be coming time when an opportunity like for Murray to come up, you're not feeding them to the wolves. Like, I consider Murray, I would throw Hildeby to the wolves. I don't think you want to throw Murray into the wolves because of his mental state and his lack of recent history of being dependable game to game to game, not just to play well, but to play.
Here's a good question for you, though. The Leafs play Ottawa tomorrow. Do you play Murray against Ottawa?
They've done that before,
and
it had a good result, if I remember correctly. The Leafs played Ottawa with him in goal, and I think they won, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong.
I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
No, it's not a bad thing at all. At the end of the day, what they're doing is what they have to do in the case of Murray. He's been out with a lot of injuries. So, the mental part of the game is the thing that comes to a player last, comes to a goalie last. They have to have confidence in their physical state, their ability. They have to play the way they know they can play, and then they have to be confident that they can take the game over, because that's what goaltenders today in the National Hockey League have to do. For a team to have a good record and a team to do well in the playoffs, the goaltender has to be an integral part of that success. So, and that requires a lot of mental strength, right? It's about bouncing back in the playoffs. You play one day, you lose, you got to come back real quick and win, and that's the kind of confidence that Murray is working on right now. And I think the Leafs are doing a good job of sheltering him to make sure that he's ready when he comes back. And the other thing is, they're both in agreement. Both the Leafs and Murray are in agreement in doing it this way. Why? Because Murray is expecting to be a free agent at the end of this season, and there's nothing more he wants than having a good season, so that when he hits the free agent market, it means dollars. It makes sense. It makes dollars and cents.
Now, I think it's interesting. The last time that Matt Murray played the Ottawa Senators was March 18th, 2023.
Go ahead.
And in that game, he made 48 saves for the Leafs and ended up winning in the shootout 5-4. So based on that, I'm not 100% sure I would throw him in the net. But the thinking is, you're playing Ottawa.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, whatever they do, it doesn't matter. We can discuss the decision-making process that the Leafs go through, but at the end of the day, the players have to win the game. We can talk about the coach's tactics. We can talk about the right players. We can talk all about that. And a lot of it is, viable discussion. But at the end of the day, when the puck gets dropped, the guys you got to win. Not the guys who are injured, not the guys you haven't traded for, not the coach's master plan, which he should have one, but it's the players who have to execute. So no plan works if the players don't execute. Let's talk about we talked already a little bit about, you wanted to talk about Murray coming back. Is there a final comment on that? We started with that. We got in there.
Yeah, no, at this point here, it's really just a question of how much faith they have and how much of a leash they're going to give him when it comes to this sort of thing. So it'll be curious to see where it goes. And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't make the start against Ottawa this Saturday, but I would like to see it.
Okay, let's use the last 7 minutes of this and talk about the other Canadian teams.
Sure.
So that's about a minute apiece, a minute and a half. Let's talk about Larkin, the Stars, as the Red Wings bounce back for a 4-2 win over the Canadians.
So, yeah, Dylan Larkin's first touch of the puck was awkward. He kind of carried it into the offensive zone before his team had tagged up to earn an offside whistle. But from that point on, he had 2 points in a 4-2 victory over the Montreal Canadiens in his 700th career NHL game. I didn't, honestly, based on his first couple of years, I didn't think he would have been in the league that long, but he's managed to turn it into a captaincy and a decent record. Those 700 career games in the regular season have corresponded to just 5 career postseason games total.
It is what it is.
Now, that in no way reflects on the quality of hockey he's played while he's in Detroit. But the fact that he was able to just do as he wanted to against the Montreal Canadiens, I think, speaks to the skill.
Absolutely.
But it was good to see him have a nice game. So especially for his 700s to come up with a couple of points, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Carpusalo, Bruins win, Senators lose. 2-0.
Yeah. No, this game was actually really, really close. Geeky didn't break the shutout until I think the second period. So Ottawa and Boston were playing relatively close. But Korpisalo got 29 saves against his former team. Morgan Geeky scored. And then David Pastrnak added an empty netter as they beat the Sens 2-0. Korpisalo, that's his 3rd shutout of the season and 7th overall. He was sent to Boston in June in a deal for former Vezina Trophy winner Linus Ullmark. Early in the second, Pastrnak wrapped around the net and sent a pass to Geeky, who banged it in. Forsberg, however, did make 24 saves for Ottawa. They were shut out for the second straight game, 5th time in their last 11. It has
Absolutely.
been hard for them to find goals. They lost 5-0 to the New York Rangers on Tuesday. Um, the Bruins didn't give up 4 second period goals this time around, unlike the game they did against New Jersey. So, yeah, it's one of those where Kachuk is doing everything he can. His teammates now have to step up and do the scoring because he obviously can't do it all. Yeah, I think he's making increasingly desperate moves, and the potential for him to really hurt somebody is out there, especially the way he plays.
Yeah. Pionk scores in overtime. His Jets beat the Avalanche.
Yeah, it only took 17 seconds, for the Jets to beat the Avalanche in overtime. Um, Hellebuck actually started the winning play when he set the puck to Vladislav Nemesnikov, who fed Pionk, and then Pionk's slap shot beat Blackwood. This helped Winnipeg end their 2-game losing streak. Morgan Barron and Gabe Velarde also scored for Winnipeg, and Hellebuck stopped 25 shots. Nate McKinnon and Cale Makar scored for Colorado, and Mackenzie Blackwood actually had 22 saves. Colorado was actually leading early in the second period on McKinnon's 19th goal, but then Barron and Velarde scored just before the second intermission to give the Jets the lead. And, you know, it is what it is. Linesman Johnny Murray left the game in the second period after colliding with Devon Toews. He did return to start the third, but left again partway through and didn't return.
Huberdeau and Kadri, 3-point games, lead the Calgary Flames to a victory.
Yeah, Hubie had a goal and 2 assists. Kadri had a goal and 2 assists, and Jacob Peltier had a goal and an assist for Calgary. Yegor Sharangovich and Michael Backlund added empty net goals, so that's good to see. Dustin Wolf had 32 saves and won for the 5th time in 6 starts. He's now 17-7-2 on the season. The Flames are now currently in the second wild card spot in the Western Conference, 3 points ahead of the Canucks and the St. Louis Blues. On the flip side, Tage Thompson and Matthias Samuelsson scored for Buffalo. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen also made 21 saves, but his record has slipped to 15-15-4, or Bettman 500.
Yeah, Logan Thompson's been a real nice addition to the Sabres. He's been playing really well. Too bad he's not playing on a better team. I'm telling you, the kid would score even more goals. Let's talk about the Oilers, and their captain was suspended after a game against Vancouver. The return match took place. The media played it up to be, this is the war on ice. Revenge is now underway, and none of that actually happened. Mind you, though, Perry did what he could to piss people off.
Corey Perry's inordinately good at that. He is one of those players that you hate to play against, and you're not 100% sure you'd root for him if he were actually on your team.
No, I think you would. I think you would. You know what? My problem child is my problem child, and if he pisses you off, that's a good thing. So that's the nature of sports, right? We applaud the guys that step over the line on our behest, as much as we complain about the ones on the other team that do it for them. So that's a sports dependability. The rules are skewed depending on who done it and who saw it. So that's just the way it goes. Aaron, this was a fun experience. I want to thank Scott for inviting us here on to Stream Punk, and I want to send out heartfelt get well soon, Eduardo Harari, our producer at Spanglish. He's has some health concerns that are being taken care of. I hope everything goes well for you, Eduardo. Get back on your feet soon, and we look forward to running into you again. And for those of you that are watching this program, I really appreciate the fact that you watched it. Thanks to Scott Churchson for giving us this venue, if you will. I tell you, I've been struggling to get us on the air because this gray hair tells a secret. The secret is old people don't know internet that well and computers. But you know what? I survived. I figured it out, and I'm more than happy to do this. Aaron, tell me a little bit about what you see in the future for the program and what we can do. What are you looking for in the future?
Well, obviously, I'd like to see a continuation of this. For those of you who don't follow us on a regular basis, and those of you watching us for the first time, we tend to do a bit of a news show as well. Ideally, I'd like to see if we can continue that. I know that in the past we've done a hybrid program before where we've split it up between sports and shenanigans. Um, but as for the future, depending on the programming options that are available to us, we of course are. I'm happy to make changes, make tweaks to the format. So going forward, I would like to continue to meet more of you people and to have more of you hear my hot takes and either shake your head or nod in agreement. That's
What
pretty
Aaron's
much it.
saying is, if you will have an opinion about the transition that we're making, location, yeah, we can have that conversation. More than willing to listen to you. I say in the future, specifically, it's going to be fun the next few weeks to talk about the Leafs' ups and downs. And as the clock ticks closer and closer to the playoffs, I can assure you of one thing. Aaron will be there struggling with you with each loss the Leafs have and championing every victory they have. I personally am a supporter of Toronto and any sports franchise that plays in Toronto. I love watching what's going on. And I've been accused of being a homer. Well, I am a homer to the extent that I like seeing Toronto sports fans happy, and disappointment they're used to. Happiness is something that is a rarity in sport. And if you need to ask yourself why that is, the last thing I'm going to say is this. Everyone except the Canadian Football League, all the leagues have at least 30 teams in it. If everybody took a turn winning the championship, that would be a 30, 32, 35-year wait. So patience is part of being a fan, but you don't have to be. That's the beauty of being a fan. You're taking part, you get to be who you are. And thanks for watching. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live's Maple Leaf Talk. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time. Have a great time. Enjoy the hockey this weekend. Bye for now.